Hello everyone, my name's Dean, let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the price of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is May 8th, 2025. And be very careful, be very cautious with Bitcoin right now. I'm making this video not because I'm saying anything I haven't yet said, but because I know that a lot of people right now are extremely excited at the prospect of Bitcoin breaking 100K and going on a massive bull run. But I want to reiterate the fact that the charts are not bullish. The setup is not bullish. And so be very careful. So I'm going to explain based off of the most recent price action, what I see in the Bitcoin chart. Also, I'm going to talk about alts finally decoupling, finally showing life and strength, and what I expect from the altcoin space. So if that all sounds interesting to you, then watch until the very end. Hope everyone's having a great day. Let's get into it. All right, as you can see, your watch list should be green today. It should be green. All right, and that's not something we see every day. So let's take time to appreciate that and understand, okay, something's happening. There's something there. Maybe there's something there, right? So if you look up and down your watch list, you should see green. But, and this is a very important but, this is just the beginning. Really, I want people to understand that when you get a change in market sentiment, a change in market trend from down and sideways to up, the first move up typically takes time to establish itself. So you'll get a move up and then you'll get a big move down, right? In Elliott wave analysis, we call that, a wave one, wave two. Wave two is always the biggest retracement in the entire trend. So wave one goes up 100%, wave two comes down 62%, right? Wave two is always the strongest retracement. So for altcoins, and I know that we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and I typically start with Bitcoin, but let me just say this for altcoins. For altcoins, you expect a large retracement, generally speaking, not necessarily a lower low, but a large retracement before things really start moving up and really establishing themselves in the new trend. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, Bitcoin. Be very careful. If it's your first time watching any of my videos, watching any of my analysis, and you're one of those that is convinced that Bitcoin is on its way to not only just breaking 100K, but to making all-time highs, I'm glad you're here. Watch this. All right, we're on the 4-hourly time frame as per usual. Bitcoin has actually done what we thought was unlikely, but we said was possible. All right, so if we look, you can see I have two different things set up here. I have the clear ascending broadening wedge, right, between two dotted or dashed lines showing you the support and the resistance of my ascending broadening wedge. And we're clearly at the resistance of the ascending broadening wedge, okay? So if anything, even if you were of the belief that Bitcoin was bullish in this scenario, what you should wait for is something like this, okay? You're not going to break this resistance without meeting some, you're not going to break this level without meeting some resistance. And if you were to then find liquidity, you would find liquidity at the midline of this ascending broadening wedge, and then ultimately break the resistance, break 100K, and you're on your way. So if you're bullish, you should logically, with all things considered, wait for this move and then that move. But I'm here to tell you that that is even improbable and very unlikely based off of what we're seeing on the high time frames. So I said last video that Bitcoin was likely to end up right here at the top of our pink box, and given that B waves tend to retrace to between 786 to 095, right? That is, in my estimation, in my experience, anecdotally, where I see B waves end up. So we spent some time here and we shot up there. And I said the maximal retracement for a B wave is the 1618 Fibonacci extension. Okay, the 1618 Fibonacci retracement level, rather, I should say, because a B wave cannot go beyond the 1618 and still be a B wave. And I said that this was likely an initial break or an A wave. Let me redraw my A. And this was likely a counter or a B wave. And if it was a B wave, and I would be able to take this A wave, measure it with a Fibonacci retracement tool, and have it that there was no way that this B wave go beyond the 1618, which is on this chart around 99,933. And what did Bitcoin do? Bitcoin went right up until the 1618, but didn't break it. Okay, and that's not to say that you should trade like that and you make 100% full confident trades on that, but this is the power of technical analysis. This is the power and the precision of it. Sometimes when you're pulling these fibs, price will respect it to the dollar. Okay, so we went up right up until the limit, but we didn't break it. And I've seen this before. I've seen this before in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the king crypto. Bitcoin is where everybody's hopes and dreams are. Bitcoin is what all of these sovereign funds and these governments are buying. And so if anything had to, really test the limits of the B wave extension, it would be Bitcoin. And it did, but it's still up at resistance, and it's still reacting like a B wave because it is within the norms, within the boundaries of our B wave. And so I do expect at this point, not just because we're at the resistance of our ascending broadening wedge, not just because we're at the maximum retracement of a B wave, but also because we're at macro resistance. And I talked about this in last video. Look at this. Zoom out for a second. Look at what's happening. You have all of this drama going on for 100 days, broke down, retested. Where are you coming back to? You're right now not just at the top of the ascending broadening wedge, not just at the 1618 extension level of our purported A wave, but you're also at the midline of a 100-day channel. Remember, midlines are resistance when you're below it, support when you're above them. You're right now below 100+ day resistance. That is resistance. That has to be broken. If it's broken, then yes, you're off into the races. But again, it's more unlikely than not from a high time frame to a small time frame analysis of Bitcoin's price action. So if I'm correct, what then? What's your point, Dean? Are you just saying that Bitcoin's going to retrace a little bit before, let's go back to the 4-hourly time frame. Are you just saying that Bitcoin's going to retrace a little bit before finally going crazy, breaking 100K, and then, the bull market starts? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is the top of this move. This is the top of this distribution. What distribution am I talking about? Let's go back to the daily time frame. I'm sorry, I should have done this, but I didn't know I'm going to do. I'm doing this extemporaneously, so I don't know what I'm going to do before I do it. All I know is I'm talking about Bitcoin. But from my vantage, from my understanding, from my take, this entire thing is our distribution channel. Not just this, all of this. And so when I look at this, I'm looking at this as an initial break, or an A wave, B wave, a secondary break, a secondary counter, a tertiary break right here, and a tertiary counter, or 2 degrees of AB basing and a pivot. For those of you who are new to my analysis, that may not make any sense to you, but essentially, we're looking at 3 different pairs of corrective patterns. One, so correction, counter correction, correction, counter correction, correction, counter correction. 3 pairs of corrective patterns. Corrective patterns tend to express in flavors of 3 before completing the corrective trend, or the corrective motion. I don't know what term to use. The corrective trend. Let's call it a trend, because this trend is corrective. It's sideways. It's choppy, right? And once it's corrected and complete, now it can break down. That's the breakdown. That's our target, 65 to 70K. This is what we've been talking about for months on this channel. That's what I'm seeing. So there's so many reasons why, going back to the smaller time frames, you shouldn't not only be cautious about Bitcoin right here, you should be extremely cautious about Bitcoin right here, because on the balance of probability, if there's anything correct about that analysis, then Bitcoin is at the top of its move, the top of its corrective wave or pattern or trend. And what comes next is a strong move to the downside. And the first of which is a move down, breaking this ascending broadening wedge, then retesting it, because the previous support now needs to be retested as resistance, and I think that's wave 2, and then an even further move down. Okay, so be very careful, be very cautious. Also remember, we are towards the end of the week. When you're looking at breakouts, and I said this last week, we're looking at breakouts. You tend to want to favor breakouts that happen earlier, towards the beginning of the week, so that you have time, you have the liquidity of the traditional financial markets to continue that breakout. Else, you're probably not looking at a breakout if that breakout, or what you think is a breakout, is happening towards the end of the week. I'll say that. Also, remember, the next full moon is close. The full moon, remember, represents local market bottoms. The next full moon, I believe, is on Sunday. Right now, we're Thursday. I would be very cautious, being really bullish on Bitcoin right now. Now, let's segue into altcoins, because this is really interesting. Because let's say, and I get this question all the time. Before we segue into altcoins, let me just make a quick note on our momentum indicators. I don't use indicators much on this channel, but when I do, I make use of my stochastic RSI momentum indicator, which I love. And let's have a quick look on the stochastic RSI momentum indicator for Bitcoin, where the weekly stochastic RSI momentum indicator is cross bullish, but it's in overbought territory. The daily is cross bullish, but is getting near overbought territory. And the 4-hourly is crossed bearish and double topped. Okay, so if anything, okay, let's try this again one last time. Right here, this is what I want to draw your attention to. Double topped, crossed bearish. And actually, you can see here what we call, all right, let's do this. I just want to show you this one last thing before I segue into altcoins. You can see here what we call bearish divergence. confirmed bearish divergence. It's yet to be confirmed. It's about to be confirmed in the next 4-hourly candle if these K and D lines cross. But what you can see here is on the chart a higher high, and on your momentum indicator you can see a lower high. Okay, so what this means is your momentum indicator is indicating an imminent reversal of trend. So you have, again, this high and this high and this high and that high. Here we go from lower high to higher high on the chart. In the momentum indicator, you go from high to, moderately similar, if not slightly higher. But that's basically a lower high when you compare the two. So your momentum is changing. That's what your momentum indicator is telling you. Okay, not big on indicators, generally speaking, but when I do use them, I like to use this stochastic RSI momentum indicator. I think it's nice and easy and straightforward and corroborative to what you should be able to see first and foremost in the candles. Now, so we're saying what? Just wrapping Bitcoin up. Bitcoin's likely to break down, and our first target, I think I remember saying 88 was my last, 85 was my first intermediate target. Now my first intermediate target, it's not going to be 85, but because we went a little higher than I thought, my first intermediate target is going to be, it can still be 85 to be honest with you. You know what? I don't know. Let me see. I don't think this is that important, but if I had to say, I would say around 91.5. Let's say around 91.5. Right? I would say around 91.5. Yeah. I like that. 91.5. And the reason I'm saying that is because if I look left, I see a bunch of support here, right? In our 100-day channel. I see that this is the start of our ascending broadening wedge. And if it's going to break down, every wedge, when it breaks down or breaks up, the target for breakdown or break up is the height of the wedge. So, or sorry, is the origin, the source of the wedge. So I think this is my target for wave one, around 91.5. Okay, and so I like this also because the retracement in wave two gives you a midline retest of this ascending broadening wedge. So if I have a wave two retracement, I know wave two goes to a maximum of 618 of wave one. If I do that, then I get my midline retest, right? And remember, any channel, which this wedge is a type of channel, when upon breaking down, it has to be retested at the midline before finishing up. So midline retest, and then obviously the bottom resistance or bottom support flipped into resistance and then breakdown. So I like 91.5 as my first intermediate breakdown. So if Bitcoin is to break down from where we're at right here, which I believe is likely, I think that's about a 8% breakdown to 91.5, and then a retest of the midline of that ascending broadening wedge. Now, enough about Bitcoin. Let's talk about altcoins, because really this has been the story in crypto. It's been the story in crypto because Bitcoin's been going up since around 16K, hit 100K. A lot of altcoins in that time haven't done anything. And we've been talking a lot on this channel about a reversal of Bitcoin dominance. And Bitcoin dominance reversing tells you that altcoins are finally beating Bitcoin out in market cap. And I was saying on the past few episodes that, you have a 30-day resistance here, and it was likely that we were to find resistance at this level. And so what you're finally getting is some signs of breakdown from this level. Okay, our stochastic RSI momentum indicator is showing that on the daily time frame. So I do expect this to continue, although no, there's no although. I do expect this to continue. I think it's trending right now. It's trending down, and I do expect it to continue to trend down, right? If anything, the first place I expect it to find some sort of intermediate support is around here. Yeah, the bottom of this 30-day channel. I think we popped up above it just ever so slightly. We come down at the bottom of it, retest the midline, and then break down even further. Okay, so our bullishness in altcoins is supported by this Bitcoin dominance chart. That's essentially all I want to say. The idea that Bitcoin dominance is continually rising and never breaking down, you know, we don't have to deal with that anymore, right? It's not just a theory that, oh, it's at resistance, it may break down, it's likely to break down. It's actually breaking down right now. And so what does this mean? Very practically speaking, when you see this chart, Bitcoin dominance chart, and this is the altcoin indicator, this is the definitive indicator on altcoin bullishness. When you see red candles that are impulsive, that are on high time frame, 4 hourly, daily, weekly, on Bitcoin dominance, that basically means altcoins are running and Bitcoin may be stagnating, Bitcoin may be hovering, but altcoins are beating Bitcoin in market cap. So if Bitcoin's retracing, altcoins are retracing less. If Bitcoin is pumping, altcoins are pumping more. This is what you want to see in a bull market. This is what you want to see in an alt season specifically. A lot of people are asking up and down the comments, Dean, I get you. You're saying that Bitcoin's breaking down. It's likely to break down, and these are your targets. I get that. But how is that consistent with altcoins being bullish? I always say, every single time you get altcoin pumps, it is during the time that Bitcoin is consolidating, or right around the time Bitcoin is in consolidation, Bitcoin is hovering. So right now, Bitcoin is consolidating and preparing for a move down. Maybe some altcoins are still going up ever so slightly. Bitcoin breaks down, altcoins are going to break down. I've never said anything other than that. And I've said actually on this channel for the past couple weeks that I believe that the big move in altcoins happens as Bitcoin comes down to this support level and retraces here. So Bitcoin dominance is going to continue to go down. Why? Because Bitcoin's going to go down 7%, but altcoins may go down even less. Bitcoin dominance still goes down, right? Because Bitcoin is not dominant in terms of market cap. And then, while Bitcoin retraces in this wave too, altcoins go crazy, get out of the way in preparation for this massive Bitcoin dump. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's not too complicated. People keep asking me, how is it that altcoins are going to go? Yeah, because nothing goes down in a straight line. And watch the analysis. It's not that complicated. I do expect the big altcoin move to happen at this level. Now let's go into altcoins specifically via the total 3 market cap indicator. Okay? So this is a great sign. Last time we looked at this, we were around here and we said, this is it. I think that altcoins find their way up from here. And this is exactly what happened. Altcoins are rallying off these lows. Okay? Now, again, no rally happens in a straight line. You're going to have fits and starts. You're going to have retracements, intra-wave. So this is exactly what you're seeing. I think altcoins right now, just like Bitcoin, are at resistance. Altcoins, again, let me repeat. Altcoins, just like Bitcoin, are at resistance right now as I speak at the present time of recording, 9:40 a.m., May 8th, 2025. Bitcoin's going to go down. altcoins go down. But I believe altcoins in the aggregate go down a little less than Bitcoin. And while altcoins rebound from this retracement, they rebound a lot more than Bitcoin does. That is the question to all of your life's mysteries. How is it that altcoins ever pump if Bitcoin's dumping? That's it. It's not that complicated. That's it. Okay? So what I'm expecting here in the total 3 altcoin chart is the following. I think that you get a retracement intraday, so in, probably for the next, for the next 12 to 16 hours, you get this move down to 810 billion. You find support right here, and then altcoins rocket. Then you'll see even much more green. You'll see altcoins trending. You'll see altcoins in clear double digits after that retracement. Okay? Ethereum's almost hit our target of 2,000. We talked about that last time, right? We said Ethereum was likely to come up here. I think Ethereum actually retraces like Bitcoin in a larger way. Okay? I don't see Ethereum just retracing minimally and then continuing up. No, I think Ethereum does this larger retracement before going up. But a lot of altcoins, I think, retrace just a bit before going up. Like a basic attention token. Just a bit before going up much more. Okay? I hope that's not too complicated. I hope that's understandable. This is what I'm seeing. So be very careful if you're bullish on Bitcoin, especially Bitcoin, breaking out 100K and breaking out of 100K and making all-time highs. Be very careful being way too bullish on Ethereum right now. Its time is coming, but it's at resistance. Everything's at resistance right now, but just wait for some slight retracements in altcoins, likely to take 12 to 16 hours, and then watch the moves in the altcoin space, because you're likely to see some really explosive moves in the altcoin space. And you have to before Bitcoin dumps, because if Bitcoin is going to dump, altcoins have to get out of the way. Bitcoin is going to take the entire market down when it dumps. And breaks these levels. When it breaks these levels right here. When Bitcoin does this, everything goes down. By virtue of that, for the market to, to be viable, altcoins have to pump before this happens. That is my thesis, and that's been my thesis for quite some time. Guys, hope this was helpful. Hope this was useful. Like, share, and subscribe. If you got value, consider tipping me via Venmo, Cash App, or by Litecoin, all at the pinned comment below. And consider joining my crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation service. Also can be signed up through the link at the pinned comment below, where I go one-on-one with you for up to 2 hours every month, looking at up to 5 different altcoins that are likely to pump in the crypto bull market. Not every altcoin is going to pump in the crypto bull market, so I assess that with you, help you balance your portfolio, give you targets for buying and selling on a monthly basis, so you can take profit. And then you can know where to get back in on support. So that's it for me. Hope this was helpful. And I'll talk to you soon.
In the road could turn back, repeat the same story, or march forward and embrace change and reflect upon his glory. I'm a selfish man, therein lies the whole problem. Torn between my actions and the will of my heart. I had to take it all apart to see where I stood as a man, to depart from this world and leave it in his hands. Come on.
looks like I'm heading for the gold, y'all. Touring on a pothole road, y'all. I get it even if I didn't fit in, winning right up to the end, like I didn't even know, y'all. I have pop's genetics, working hard never to get it, like shit or better. Don't letting life get the best of my efforts. Instead I dedicated to bettering my steps, measuring investments, watch me do it to the death, y'all.